Time don't wait for anyone, and God don't rush, but his timing is perfect. He didn't rush your wait because he wouldn't risk your wait. He made you wait until the concrete was dense enough to hold the greatness he's about to put on top of it. Welcome to the Sovereign Reign. I'm Ladella Larena Robles. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, I'm glad you're here. Let's get right into it. Most of you think that you've been stuck or stagnant like a rock, but you've actually been like a Chinese bamboo. It stays on the ground for 5 years. You see nothing but dirt, but while you're looking at the dirt, that seed is building a root system that spreads for miles. Why? Because when it finally breaks the surface, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. If it hadn't spent 5 years in the dark, the first wind would snap it in half. When you walk past a construction site in a city, the fence stays up for a year, and all you see is a hole. You see trucks taking dirt in and out. You see the men working in the mud. To the untrained eye, it looks like a mess. But the architect knows the deeper the hole, the deeper the reach. You aren't empty. You're just currently in an excavation phase. You've probably been diagnosed with procrastination or laziness. You've probably been told that you have a motivation problem. But I'm only looking at the blueprint, and I see something different. I see friction. Think about a high performance jet engine. It's designed to generate thousands of pounds of thrust. It's meant to pierce the sound barrier. Now imagine that you take that same engine and you try to bolt it into a 1990 Honda Civic. What happens when you hit the throttle? The engine isn't lazy. The fuel isn't bad. The power is there. But because the frame wasn't built to handle that kind of force, the whole car starts to shake. The steering wheel vibrates so hard that you have to let it go. That shaking is the friction. In your life, that shaking looks like anxiety. It looks like starting a project and then you freeze. It looks like bio locking. On a Monday morning, when you know that you have work to do, you aren't stuck. You're vibrating because your purpose is the jet engine. But the life that you've been living is the frame that's too small, too weak, too outdated to hold that speed. Success is high pressure water. It's a flow state. But many of you are trying to run that high pressure flow through half-inch pipes that are clogged with the rust of old safety contracts. Maybe your safety contract was being the funny one. Maybe it was being the reliable one, or who never says no. Maybe it was being the invisible one. It doesn't matter what the disguise was. The point is that the pipe is too narrow for the volume of life that wants to come through it at this moment. When you try to force a gallon of water through a straw, you get backflow. You get a bursted pipe. It gets messed up. You think the success is the problem, but the diameter of your capacity is the problem. And it's not a problem. You just need expanding and updating. This is why you feel defeated. Your internal safety inspector has issued a stop work order. It has sensed that if you go any faster or get any bolder or speak any louder, the frame is going to just snap. The laziness you feel is actually a security protocol. Your body is shutting down to keep the jet engine from tearing up the Civic. You don't feel, or you shouldn't feel like you need motivation. You don't need a motivational speaker to tell you to just do it. That's like telling a driver to floor it while the engine is falling off the mount. You don't need more speed. You need a structural upgrade. You need to reinforce the chassis. You need to expand the pipes. Time don't wait for anyone, and God doesn't rush, but his timing is perfect. It isn't going to let you hit the throttle until the frame is ready for a fight. He doesn't do that. God does not do that. The weight that you've been enduring, that was the reinforcing of the steel. The friction you feel today, that's the signal that an upgrade is due, long overdue. Now, I want to tell you why the wait was so long or feels so long. In architecture, there's a massive difference between a partition wall and a load bearing wall. A partition wall is easy. You can throw it up in an afternoon with some 2x4s and drywall. It looks like a wall, it acts like a wall, but it holds zero weight. If you lean on it too hard, it cracks. If the roof starts to sag, that wall does nothing to save the house. And most people in this world are partition walls, partition wall people. They look the part, they have the title, they have the bold outfit, but they have no internal density. But you've been in the dark. You've been under the hammer. You've been in a season where it felt like you were being compressed. Compressed is how you make diamond. Compression is how you make steel. You aren't a partition wall. You're being built as a load-bearing wall. You are kept hidden and restricted or stalled because the architect was pouring high-density character into your frame. You are being prepared to hold the wall of an entire organization, a whole family, a massive vision. If you had been bold 10 years ago, you would have collapsed under the first real storm. You had the jet engine then, but you didn't have the titanium frame. Now, here is that jaw-dropping truth. The friction you feel today is actually the sound of your power outgrowing your disguise. You aren't defeated. You're over capacity. You're like a high voltage current trying to run through a 60-watt bulb. The bulb is flickering and it's burning out. But not because the electricity is bad, but because the bulb is too small for the light. Most people will tell you to find your passion or work harder. But if you try to work harder on a frame that is already shaken, you're going to destroy the machine. You don't need a pep talk. You need a site inspection. You need to look at the blueprint and see where your sovereign capacity is being choked out by your old safety protocol. You need to see where your jet engine is bolted to that Honda Civic frame. You need to see exactly where the pipe is clogged. Time don't wait for anyone, and God don't rush, but his timing is perfect. He didn't rush your wait because he wouldn't risk your wait. He made you wait until the concrete was dense enough to hold the greatness he's about to put on top of it. The foundation is finally dry. The site is finally clear. But before we build the next level, we have to check the lines. We have to see what you're really capable of holding. That's why we do the sovereign capacity audit. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to show you the structural truth of who you actually are. You weren't late. You were being reinforced. The quiet is over. The friction has its job. It's time to stop vibrating and start building. You may have a problem. You may feel a certain way. I can tell you why it's happening, how to fix it, and how to keep it that way. I'm Ladella Robles. Let's go to work.